Hello everybody, how are you doing? Welcome to Talks with Adri. Today we have an amazing topic, how the universe works. And the answer is through cycles. There is a divine order that is expressed in everything that we see. This was studied by many ancient cultures, and I'm going to explain you how the Hinduists saw it and how the Toltec saw it. So let's start. For the Hinduists, the cycles are called yugas. Yugas is a word in Sanskrit that means age or cycle or world era. So we're going to see that they have a big count. This big count, for example, is given by the kalpa. The kalpa is what we call an eon. For them is 4.32 billion years. And this is 1 year of Brahma, the force of the Creator. And 100 years of Brahma is what we call Mahakalpa. And it is something that is very difficult to say, but I just put it here. Actually, I encourage you to read this number. According to Jason Gregory, it's a tongue twist. This is how they work. Those yugas or cycles have different wave of consciousness. And we are going to increase our consciousness every time that we are going back to center. And we are going to reduce our level of consciousness when we are going far away from the center. They are divided in four. The Satya Yuga, the Treta Yuga, the Dvapara Yuga, and the Kali Yuga. So we are going to have these four ascending and descending cycles in consciousness and in time. So the Satya Yuga is the closest to the Golden Age, where everything was in peace, that we were back to our unity. We are very close to the sun, as you can see here in the picture. We are very connected with the source of everything, with our spirit. Then the Treta Yuga, we reduce 1/4 of the consciousness. So the virtues of humanity and of all beings start decreasing. Then in the Dvapara Yuga, we are going to see that we are half of the initial consciousness. So virtues are also going even down. And Kali Yuga is the darkness side, where we are most far away from the center, where we don't recognize the spirit. For example, in our days that we are actually in Kali Yuga, we can see that people are not too interested in spirituality, even though we are making the shift. But our attention is especially centered in the outside world. Nothing at all with the inside world. This is changing. But the problem is that the biggest value that we see right now for us is the science, is the paradigm that rules. And science has one big god, we can call it, and it is technology. With technology, we are creating robots and many things that are affecting our values. For example, in the moment that a robot is more important than a human being, that is the lowest that we can reach in consciousness, because first goes life and the creation. There is also a short count system of the yugas. This was brought to the world by Swami Sri Yukteswar. He was an enlightened being, and he just channeled, he just connected through the source in order to receive all this knowledge, all this information. He actually is an ascended master. And he explained us the short system. So in the short count system, we are going to see that there is a wheel of 24,000 years. We're going to have 12,000 years ascending in consciousness and 12,000 years descending in consciousness. The same, around 5,000 years in the first cycle, that it is the golden age, that is where we are very close to our center, to our spirit. And then we're going to have the Tetra Yuga, which is the silver age, where we are going to be very dominated by mind, but at the same time, this is going to wake up our telekinetics, our communication through telepathy and many other things. And then is the bronze, the Dwapara Yuga. And here we start reducing the consciousness and reducing the consciousness until we arrive to the Kali Yuga. The good thing is that every cycle is shorter. So let's say that we can enjoy more the enlightened cycles than the ones that we are very far away from our consciousness, from our original center. Everything in life has to pass through these cycles. Everything. Planets, stars, every being. But we're going to see that for humans, we also can call this cycle the birth and rebirth. Because in the same way that we go to ascension, then we go to destruction. So in the samsara wheel, by the Hinduists, we're going to see that the samsara explains that you are born, that you are able to experience your life in many ways, and then when you die, you have the opportunity to come back again to earth and re-experience something different, something new, to learn from a different perspective. That's the wheel of samsara, and you have to come like 8 million times in order to really fulfill all the process of learning to be able to move. Later we're going to see that Buddhism is going to show us a way of enlightenment, of getting out of the wheel of samsara without having to pass through all the 8 million lives. How we do it? Well, there is also the wheel of knowledge, or the wheel of good life, that says we have to have the right view, we have to have the right thinking, the right speech, the right action, the right livelihood, the right diligence, the right mindfulness, the right concentration. Basically, you have to modify your life, your behavior. And with a lot of meditation, you are able to transcend and break this samsara wheel. The Toltecs are going to explain something similar. For the Toltecs, we also have the count of big cycles and other short cycles. They said that our sun goes around the Pleiades, and this it's a process of 26,500 years. This is a big cycle where our sun goes around the Pleiades, in the same way that the Mother Earth goes around the sun and the moon around the earth. In this loop, we are going to go 13,000 years going far away from our center, and other 13,000 years coming back to center. So we also have these ascendants and descendants processes that we see in the Yudas with the Toltec tradition. And all of this is explained in the Aztec calendar and also in the Mayan calendar, as I'm going to show you later. They say that the movement is not an elliptic movement that you create an oval. What you're going to see is a movement in spiral of this, because the Pleiades are advancing, our sun is advancing, the earth is advancing at the same time that it is rotating around the center. And within the 13,000 cycles, there are cycles of 6,625 years. This cycle is what they call the sun. So that's why now we are passing from the 5th sun to the 6th sun. The process started at the 21st of December of 2012. This year we started the 6th sun. All these years we have been adapting, let's say preparing to this big shift in consciousness. Because the 5th sun, most of the rules were given by the humans, were given by the mind. But in this new sun, the rules are going to be given by nature. So we have to go with the flow to adapt in order to survive. Here we have the Aztec calendar. In the Aztec calendar, we're going to see that in the middle is this great big force, the spirit that is within everything. And out of it are going to come out 4 forces. These 4 forces are 4 ways of expression, are the 4 Tezcatlipoca's, or are also the what in Hinduism we were calling the birth and rebirth process, because here we are going to say that it is the awakening, the sleeping, the dreaming, and the death. Also, we're going to have the duality. As you go and see below, there are the 2 opposed forces that form duality, which are also called ometeotl. And we have also the snake that eats its own tail, which is the same as the wheel of the samsara, is when you repeat the cycles, and that you don't learn. So we are not evolving or passing to a different dimension or to a different level of consciousness. We're just experiencing reality, and we have to live more lives in order to continue learning. In this calendar that shows all of these, we're going to have the big cycles. So here in magenta, I am showing the cycle of Venus and also of the moon, and how there are 52 years of how Venus goes around the sun. And also the 13 steps, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 ascending and descending years, completing the 26,000 cycle. So this is a very big count, and it is very detailed. If you go and study a little bit more the Aztec calendar, how we are ruled by the center of the universe, by this great source, and additionally through the cycles of the earth. And also the 4 pillars that I just mentioned here, that are the process of rebirth, transformation, and death, which also represent the 4 elements. Okay, so here we have, as I already explained, that it is a spiral, how the planets and how the suns and the stars move, which is also the same shape as the DNA. Let's see the great cycles, the account of the great cycles. So here was when 2012 started, or let's say when the cycles were finished, the 21st of December. So before, we were coming from a 6,500 year cycle. That is when the Sumerians rise, the Sumerian civilizations, also when the human written history started. From the period before, around 13,000 years ago, we're going to see that it was the fall of Atlantis, because 26,000 years ago it was the initial point of Atlantis. And also 30,000 years ago was the rise of ancient Egyptians and the rise of the Toltecs, which were the people that survived from Atlantis. And so on, before and before and before. And if we go at the beginning of this cycle, of this long count, around 288,000 years ago, 300,000 years ago, was when the humans started on Earth. So there are big important things, big important events that happen when these cycles change, because there is a shift in consciousness. Life cannot continue in the same way that it started. It has to be different. So here are some examples of the great cycles. So we have this 6,000 cycle, this 13-year cycle, and then this happens the same with million years and with billion years. So it's a never-ending process. I want to put this here because this explains how the Toltecs conceived the universe. So we have here Zipacli, the force, the source of everything, of the creation. But according to Carlos Castañeda, he will say he is a great predator. What does that mean? It means that everything he creates at the same time, he eats it back. So, in order to be able to create more, Ometeotl, which are the twins or the opposed forces, Mr. 2 and Mrs. 2, decided to send their 4 sons, the 4 Tezcatlipocas, to stop Cipactli and allow them to create. So here we have the feather serpent, which is Quetzalcoatl. You're going to see the face here, and the jaguar that represented the Nahual, or the black Tezcatlipoca. So what happens is that the jaguar cuts the head of the white Tezcatlipoca, or of Quetzalcoatl, the enlightened being, in order to give the blood to Cipactli as an offering. This is a great offering because remember that the blood was the liquid that contains all the information of the ancestors, what allows us to grow up in consciousness. And additionally, it is the primordial source, it is the fountain of life. So he's giving this as an offering to Cipactli in order for him to stop eating the creation. And what he gave him, because of this offering, he gives them time. So he gives them cycles. He gives them, the opportunity to create and to express themselves, but at the same time, at any moment they are going to be hunted, they are going to be eaten. So they are going to die, because dying is a gift, is what allows transformation, what allows rebirth, that something becomes something different. So that's why Carlos Castañeda says that the universe is a great predator, because we all live energy, we all need energy from others in order to transform and to be what we are now. And our energy will have to go to feed the earth, and that will be transformed in flowers, and that they will also need the energy of the sun in order to produce something different, and we all have to live and die. And that is the cycle about. This is important to understand, the dimensions, because we can move to another dimension when we have completed the learning process of our cycles here, first on Earth. And we're going to, in order to explain dimensions, there is a science concept that I would like to explain that is called the theory of relativity. This theory was given or developed by Albert Einstein. And he says, with his famous equation, energy is the same as matter multiplied by c squared, where c is the speed of light, which is 300,000 kilometers per second, and it is a constant. All the time it is the same. So we have something that is exactly the same in this equation, means that energy is the same as matter. And he's going to refer many times that a being that has matter therefore has energy, and it is the one who is able to unfold time and space. Energy is capable of unfolding time and space. So here, I wanted to be very graphic. Here we have a planet, and this planet is going to affect the time and the space around it. There is a magnetic force that is called gravity that pulls and that affects the movement of the objects that are still or in movement around this other planet. So the most strong force of gravity, that in this case is going to be of these planets and not of the rocket, is what it's going to affect the movement of the other. So why space? Because what is going to happen is that if it was going to cross in a line, it is going to go around instead. And additionally, with more acceleration, it will shrink. So it's not going to occupy the same space outside from the planet that inside the planet. Also, the time is going to be relative, and I'm going to explain this with the twin paradox. So here we see that there are two brothers that say goodbye because one is going to take a trip to the space in a rocket. After 80 years, one that stays waiting for his brother, and the other one arrives, and for him the time was only like 3 days. So he's going to come back younger. And this had happened with some astronauts that have left Earth. They come back a little bit younger. Time has not passed through them. Also, their watches show that time outside of Mother Earth behaves different. When they come back, the same amount of time has not passed. It's different. So this is the theory of relativity of time. So now that we know that outside of Mother Earth we don't have the same rules, because there is no the same time, there is not the same space, and also it can be no matter, but there can be energy. It's easier for us to understand what are we facing now, moving from the 3rd dimension to the 4th dimension. In order to move from the 3rd dimension to the 4th dimension, we need to experience a process of learning. And here in this process, we don't need to reach any goal. What we need to do is pass through the process. That is what it is more important, because it is a learning process. So here we have the first stage, which is called expression. With the expression is when the being becomes aware that it exists and that it can do things. And it will decide to express himself according to what he has inside. So we can call this the birth or the baby. And it is guided by the element of water. Later we have the process or the second pillar of experimentation. Okay, so now that I express myself, I'm going to experiment what I have done. Okay, so the law of cause and effect is starting acting here, and this gives me some knowledge. I am learning. So we can say that this is like the teenager part, when you are not really knowing what you're doing, but you want to express and to experiment and see everything with the different senses, you want to taste, you want to see, you want to listen, you want to live freely. And here is going to be ruled by the element of fire. Also, we can, to be a little bit more graphic, we can explain this with the 4 seasons. So the first one is going to be spring, the second one is going to be summer, the third one will be autumn, and it is the process of integration. Is when you put together all those experiences that you had, and you say, okay, this had a purpose, this worked for me, I'm not going to repeat this, I can continue through this path. So it is a learning process, putting everything together, and then you become more knowledgeable, then you become more wise, and you are able to express these things that you already experienced and teach them to others. And that's why it is also the process of reproduction, when you are able to reproduce all those processes that you have already experienced and to teach them. The element is going to be earth. Finally, we have the transcendence. The transcendence point is when we die, basically. When we die, because we became old and very wise, and it's going to be guided by the element of the wind. In the transcendence, we need to die in consciousness, because if we don't die conscious, then we're going to repeat the samsara wheel, or the serpent that eats its own tail. And we don't want to do that. You want to die in consciousness. If we are able to die in consciousness, we become the 5th element. We ourselves, our energy becomes the 5th element. And it is when we are able to dominate the energy of the elements, when we are able to create out of them. It is when we are able to put or to integrate our supraconsciousness, our consciousness and our subconsciousness all in once. So we are going to be able to know why we had to experience everything that we experienced, why we learn all what we learn, why we suffer, why we enjoy, putting all together thoughts, emotions, and learning out of it to finally go to another dimension. So this is the process of transcendence, and you can only do it if you die in consciousness. when you are able to see and to understand all what you experience because you were able to integrate it and bring it into your energy. So you become a more evolved being. This process is not something like from the religion or no, this is something that has been lived and experienced by many cultures. For example, the Egyptians, they prepared the pharaohs to live in the Aldila, which means in the other side, after death. All their life, the pharaoh was prepared to live after death. So he passed through different initiations, he passed through different schools and learning processes of how to act in the moment of death. And they wrote these at the walls of the pyramids, at the ceilings of the pyramids, how to move that 90-degree angle, so important, to change the dimension. Where you have all this knowledge represented by the circle, and when you have already from the center experienced the different realities, you integrate this cycle and you're able to move on, to transcend. We are going to see that also the Toltecs and the Mayans were able to experience this, but the Mayans experienced it collectively. They did it as a group of people who ascended, who transcend. This is in their oral tradition. What they did was to start creating from their 13 skies or 13 heavens, which means that they knew that they have to overcome their weaknesses, and that they have to behave in certain ways, and that they have to develop certain virtues in order to transcend. So they are climbing step by step up through the pyramid, and in the 13 they just disappeared, they evolved, they became the feather serpent, which is Quetzalcoatl or Kukulkan, where they are able to move the energy all from their chakras and fly. And that's why it is a serpent that is feathered, that is able to fly away. Also, for example, in Buddhism, Buddha was able to do it. He was an enlightened being that through transformation, moderation, and all that we explained before in the wheel, and a lot of meditation, he was able to transcend, to change the dimension. Also, we have gurus in India, Jesus Christ, they all transcend death. They became a different being. And when you transcend, your energy stays for everybody. You are a teacher, you are a master, but not because you decide to teach. It is because your own energy is the example towards others. They are grabbing all your wisdom and you're opening a path. The more persons that do this, the easier it will be for humanity to transcend, to evolve. And as I read it to you last lesson, according to the predictions of the Aztec calendar, in the year 40,000, humanity is going to be able to do it collectively, to transcend, because we are changing. We are definitely going to experience another dimension. Enlightenment is the process of moving from the third dimension to the fourth dimension or to the fifth dimension, or maybe working in many, but it is only in this dimension. It's not that you have completed the evolution in the universe. You have completed one part of the cycle and you have to continue doing this. And when we say that we are passing to the fifth dimension, it doesn't mean that we are going to move from one side to another side. Remember, there is no space. What we are changing is our level of consciousness. As it is shown in the following symbols, we all have to go through the management of the 4 elements and reach the middle. The middle is our heart. So it is through our heart that we're able to connect, to plug with these other dimensions. It is through feeling, because maybe we speak different languages, maybe some doesn't even speak, they communicate through thought, telepathically, but it is through our heart that we are able to tune to different frequencies. Okay, now, this process of the 4 pillars, we can see it through symbols in the different cultures. For example, the Toltec cross, which is the integration of the opposite forces of the duality, but also with all the elements, creating this fifth element at the center. You're also going to find the Celtic cross, you're going to find the infinite spiral that goes up of enlightenment of the Buddhism, in Christianity, in the Sri Yantra, in the bow wheel, and in many concepts. We're going to see how, by being able to work with the elements, you create your own reality, and you're able to free your spirit from the cycles, to break through it, to become something different, something more evolved, something that is being able to transform. So when you reach this state, basically you are free from the matter. You are able to integrate all and transform everything, all your karma into your dharma. And you are an enlightened being that shows the path to others through example. So I hope that you like today's episode, and in the next one we're going to see what is outside in those dimensions through our ancestors, how they contact different dimensions, and also the recent messages that we have received from other beings on Earth. Thank you. Bye. And if we don't have any questions, what do you think if we do a short meditation? I don't know if you have the time for 10 minutes, a short meditation to align ourselves with the cosmos, to align ourselves with the seasons. Would you like? And close your eyes. Try to center into your heart. Feel the beating of your heart. Listen to what is going on inside yourself. And ask your heart to align with the heartbeat of Mother Earth. And to reach this, send your love to Mother Earth, like a ray of love that comes from your center, from your heart, to the center, to the core of Mother Earth. Send it now. And in the same way that you send her your love, feel how she sends back to you all her mighty love, all her strength, all her force, her lovingly caring and abundance towards you. Feel it. Feel how Mother Earth loves you back, and how you can connect with her and with her cycles. Maintain this connection, and now from your heart, send a ray of light to the sun. Send a huge ray of love to the sun, our Father in the sky. Now. And in the same way, feel how the sun gives you back his love, his energy. Feel it. How you're all surrounded by the love of Mother Earth and by the love of the sun. And how you align with the beat of the heart of Mother Earth through your feeling. And how you align with the beat of the sun with its rhythm, with the movement, with the cosmic movement, with the math, with the geometry, with the dance, with the sound and the vibration of our cosmos. Just feel. Open your heart to feel that movement. Every time that you feel disoriented in this reality, close your eyes. Send your love to Mother Earth. Receive it back. Send your love to Father Sun. Receive it back. And settle your intention of moving in their own way, with their own dance, of moving with the flow, with acceptance, until you discover by yourself how to move your energy, to organize your elements, to settle your own creation. Take a deep breath. Integrate all of these right now in your body, in your mental body, in your emotional body, and in your physical body. So I will allow that you continue feel this. Stay here all the time that you like until you feel that you are all aligned. And if you have any question or comment, you're welcome to write it in the chat. Bye.